And I want to apologize to all of you for what I did. It was very wrong and I am very sorry. I just would like to move on and lead a normal life. You know, get a job and a wife and change my ways. And I hope this apology impresses you even though. And I want to apologize.
Yeah, so that was a great apology. The only reason I wanted to bring that up is because somebody messaged me the other day and they were messaging me about it. And they said something along the lines of like, you know, that Travis Scott went through his phone and then he specifically picked the black and white filter to make this. And I was like, what the? Yeah, that's a good point. Like, why? Like, why? If you're looking for a genuine apology, which it didn't come off as genuine at all. It just came off as like just a bullshit apology. Why would you go and search a filter? Like, that makes it feel less genuine. So, but I also thought it's funny. Anyway, we got a few people that are speaking out about what happened. So,
I went to Astroworld Fest last night and got dragged out of the pit during Travis Scott's set. Here is the full story. I arrived to the festival at 3 p.m. with Jacob. Despite the added security at the entrance of the festival, people were...
Hold on a second. I don't know who Jacob is. I just didn't know if we were supposed to know who Jacob was. Okay, there's a part 2 to this, though.
Still able to break in. When we were getting checked in, they didn't check my ID or my vaccination card.
So the biggest thing I would go with is that once people started breaking through, and we watched that video of people charging through the gate, like that's when you really should have just shut the concert down. How do I not know Jacob? Yeah, fuck me, right?
Security checking me and literally told me, I'm only here to make sure you don't sell your ticket. Go have fun. When we were getting our bags checked, they did not check our bag thoroughly. They did not even enforce the clear bag policy. Security was a train wreck here. We made our way to the first stage where we saw Don Toliver at 4:30. His set ended at 5, and we immediately made our way to the second stage where Travis Scott was about to perform 4 hours later. We waited for 4 hours, and during that time, we secured a spot at the barricade alongside the catwalk. So this highlighted part is the stage. This green part is the catwalk for press, media, and some security, also for VIP people to walk through. And then this little red dot is where we were standing. So we were right up against the catwalk. During those 4 hours while we were waiting for Travis Scott to come out, we made friends with the people around us and discussed how this would be the safest space for all of us because there are a lot of young adults there, especially a lot of girls, and we would be away from the moshers who would be more in the center of the crowd. We all agreed that the barricade was the safest space, so we stayed by the barricade. It was pretty empty for the first hour and a half, maybe 2 hours, until Roddy Ricch's set ended. People started flooding the crowd. Our group was sitting down for the majority while we were waiting for Travis Scott, just sitting down in where we would eventually be standing. However, as people were coming in, they were conspiring to push us and take our spots as soon as we stood up and kind of throw us off as we were standing up. And about 1 hour before Travis Scott went on stage, I stood up with the rest of the people who were sitting down and got our spots that we secured. And as we were trying to stand up, people did try to rush us and take our spots and throw us off. 30 minutes before Travis Scott was set to perform, there was a countdown put on the stage, counting down from 30 to 0. At about 1 minute, we started to become crushed. People started rushing towards the front and towards the barricade, and we started having trouble breathing. I went to Astroworld.
Okay, I mean...
As soon as Travis Scott got on the stage, a girl by us and her boyfriend were screaming for help. They needed to get out. They couldn't breathe. They were both shorter than us and were becoming crushed. I made a split-second decision 30 seconds in as I was being crushed that I needed to get out of there. So I turned to Jacob and say, we need to get out of here. Okay, I don't think I emphasized enough how badly we were being crushed. We couldn't breathe. We were being moved with the crowd. My feet were not planted on the ground, so I was just being moved.
Some of this comes off as like a little like disingenuous to me. Not that I know that shit happened there. I'm not saying that, but like for some reason this isn't really like, I don't know.
And slammed into the barricade, this metal barricade that was up to my chest. So my ribs are bruised and my hip hurts so bad. We were...
Yes, I mean, maybe I'm wrong. I could be 100% wrong. I'm sorry if I am, but it feels like some people are using it for clout, yeah.
Really seriously being crushed. Like, crushed, and we could not breathe. I swear if we were in there for another minute, my ribs would be cracked. We were trying to flag down a security guard to help get this couple out because they were struggling. This security guard was looking around aimlessly, no help at all. Finally, another security guard walked past. I locked eyes with him and said, "I need help. Can I get out?" And he said, "Yes." Grab onto me, baby, and yoinked me out of that pit. However, Jacob was still stuck in the pit, and he was not up against the rail like I was, so he could not just hop over. These security guards were in the press and media catwalk, and that's where they pulled me out of the pit into the catwalk. While Jacob was trying to get out of the catwalk and being crushed, I helped one girl get to her feet in the catwalk and another girl get out of the pit and into the catwalk. I will never forget her face as she just screamed, "Help me, help me, help me." And thankfully she got out. Somehow, by a miracle, Jacob pushed his way out of the pit and ended up in the catwalk. They walked us to the front of the stage through the catwalk where we were pulling people out of the pit as we were going. People were screaming, people were getting crushed, and we walked past the front of the stage and around to the very back of the venue where there was empty space. If it wasn't for those two girls who let me stand in between them on the barricade, the security guard who helped me get out, and Jacob keeping me sane at the festival, I don't think I would have made it out of that pit, and I don't know what would have happened. I am small, I am not that strong, I have horrible anxiety. I cannot tell you how that would have ended if we hadn't gotten out at that moment, if that security guard hadn't been right there. Sending all our love to everyone affected.
Here are our wristbands.
I guess they're proving they were there.
And a pic of me. When I arrive, here are...
Okay.
I am back home safe from Astroworld Fest, and this is probably going to be the last video I make about the event. If you want to hear about my experience, I posted my story on my page.
This just says, like, who is to blame for Astroworld? I mean, none. Okay. One of the things, this is just like a video of like a little pump stopping a show because somebody somebody passed out. Or is this that one? Or is this a next? Is this a? Oh, yeah, this is what it is. Yeah, they had a seizure.
Give absolutely
no. So I have this here because I was curious about if you can get in if you're underage, and the answer is yes. They strictly prohibit underage drinking. Delivery to minors will not be tolerated. Okay, but that means that minors are allowed in, which I find a little suspicious because I feel like you shouldn't be able to be a minor and go to this because some of the people who died were underage, and I don't think that you should be able to go to a festival with a type of, I guess you would say, culture there that allows minors to. You shouldn't have a minor in there if there's tons of drinking and drugs being done, which seems to be pretty normal for Astroworld Fest, like the Astroworld stuff.
Names, no.
This is an individual that was. There's 3 parts, so.
I was one of the EMTs that worked at the Astroworld event. Quick disclaimer, I'm going to give absolutely no names, no company names, nothing like that, nothing to disclose or put anyone in jeopardy. Me and my partner, let's just say Medic 1, me and Medic 1 were stationed at the entrance of Astroworld. About 30 minutes into Travis Scott's set, they called us saying, "Hey, we need backup by the stage." So me and Medic 1 arrive at the front of the crowd to Medic 2, Medic 3. They're like, "Hey, I have people, come with me." And so we walk through the VIP section down the middle of the crowd. As soon as we get past the VIP section and really shoulder to shoulder in the thick of the crowd, there was a couple people that kind of grabbed onto my shoulder and was like, "Hey, there's a girl passed out over here." So me and Medic 1 separate from Medic 2 and 3. They go on their call. We go on this new one. This girl's laying down and me and Medic 1 are asked, what's going on? And one of the people says that, "Oh, she's been down for 10 minutes. I'm not sure what's going on." I'm thinking, damn it, how has no one done anything? Just let her lie on the ground for 10 minutes. So I get down there, check her pulse and breathing, do my whole ABCs check, and she has no pulse, no breathing, which means she could have not been breathing with no pulse the whole 10 minutes. She's been sitting there for 10 minutes, probably no pulse, no breathing, no oxygen to her brain. I can't just throw her over my back and escort her out of the crowd because it was a 5-minute hike into this damn crowd. So I tell medic 1, hey, I'm going to come back for you. I'm going to grab a crash bag. So I get out of the crowd and I grab my one crash bag, which was a huge mistake. I had no clue what I was getting into. So on my hike back into the crowd with my crash bag, at the halfway point right here, I find another medic performing CPR. I get down, I'm like, hey dude, where's your partner? What's going on? And he's like, I don't know, man. I just saw this person who's no pulse, no breathing. I just started CPR. I don't know how I'm gonna get him out. In EMS, you have to complete your first call before you can assist on any other ones. And so I was like, okay, look, I'll come back for you too. I need to go to my original guy. So I head out, and then in the middle point between the midpoint and my end point right here, I find a third person performing one-man CPR on another man. And I get there, I'm like, hey, what's happening? Where's your partner? And they're like, they're taking care of another unconscious person. I need to do one-man CPR. I don't know how I'm getting this person out of here. So here I am presented with 3 different EMS personnel providing one-man CPR on 3 different patients, completely isolated from each other, no backboard, no way of getting out. And I'm just like, God damn it. I was one of the EMTs that worked the Astroworld.
Yeah, I mean, so far it sounds
because
like
of the
it sounds like they were understaffed, like incredibly understaffed.
because of the
But I remember we also heard like some people just didn't know what the fuck they were doing too. Some of the medical staff as well, and some of the other claims.
heat of the moment, whatever, right? My thought process was, okay, I'm not getting these first 2 people out until I get my original person out because that's the first person I ran into. So I gave person number 2 or CPR person number 2 right here, I gave him the crash bag, and I was thinking, you know what, person number 1 that I originally went to, probably already done a couple cycles of CPR, and I'm just gonna throw her on my back and get her the hell out of here. And to give y'all context, the radio wasn't working, the music was way too loud. I had called for backup and for help so many times, and it was just not going through. I tossed person number 2 the crash bag, and I get to person number 1 who was originally there, and thank goodness like 5 cops were there. And they had brought a backboard with them, which thank God. We loaded her up onto the backboard and we get her out of there. She's on her way with like 4 or 5 cops. My original partner, medic 1's making sure she's okay. And so I'm like, okay, I gotta take care of these other 2. I get to CPR number 2, who I dropped the crash bag off with. And the medic's still there, but a cop arrived with another backboard. So after they finished their round of CPR, I'm like, okay, look, being in this crowd is literally a life threat. That was apparent. Life over limb, she needs to get the hell out of here, just like everyone else who's passed out here. And just to say, along the way, I had so many people reach out to me, tug on my jacket, grab my shoulder, and was like, please help me, I broke my foot. Please help me, I dislocated my shoulder. Please help me, I feel like I'm gonna pass out. And I had to tell all of them, I will try to come back for you, but people are literally dead right now that I need to go help. So we get CPR number 2 loaded up onto a backboard. The cops are like, I got it. And I'm like, okay, thank God. Take him out. I can go to CPR number 3. I get to CPR number 3 and no one's touched this man. No one's helped this man. He needs a crash bag. So I sprint out of the crowd, grab another crash bag, bring it back. What do you know? Security with a backboard. I'm like, thank fuck, teamwork, right? And so as soon as I get third CPR kind of out the door, out of the way from the crowd, I tell them, look, 3 people dropped in the span of 10 minutes that only I could see. There's like over, 50,000 people here, and I witnessed 3, only me. There's gotta be more. I told those medical personnel, look, I'm gonna go in and find these people, do one-man CPR, do whatever needs to be done to make sure, provide the best amount of care possible and get them the hell out of here. This was just the higher acuity patients. Me and Medic 1, my partner, probably dealt with 5 or 6 other lower acuity. And when I mean lower acuity, I mean not instantly dying, right? I'm talking about broken feet AMS, people who don't even know their name, they don't even know how to speak anymore. It was horrendous. Me and Medic 1 ran our asses off. Because of the heat of the moment, whatever, right?
Okay, there's one more part.
And in the thick of this, I'm like, so many people are going down, so many people are getting injured. And my observations were that there was zero crowd etiquette at all. They just wanted to get closer to the show, closer to Travis Scott, and do their...
It's another interesting thing too, because there was a culmination of factors, and one of those things, I think, one of those factors I do truly believe is the crowd etiquette. I've talked about it before, and a lot of people are saying that Travis Scott has no responsibility for that. I disagree. You're not 100% responsible for your fans. I believe that. You know, I'm not like a big person. Well, I'm literally big, but I'm not like a huge internet person. But you know, you have a level of control over your fans. You have a level of control over your fans enough where you can say, you know, hey, don't do this thing, right? What happened in my stream before? Some fucking asshole came in here and they sent me a video from TikTok that had like the N-word with a hard R in it. And I banned them. And I'm sure they just thought it was funny, and they were like a young kid that thought it was funny. But it's not funny. And you have to set an example for things. Like, that's not funny. Like, you know what I'm saying? So, you know, if you have toxic people that are associating themselves with you, you have to speak out against them. I haven't seen Travis Scott one time speak out against his fans. I remember years ago, I believe he was arrested for inciting like a riot or telling people to like break into a show or something. He seems to encourage like rowdiness from his concerts. And so, of course, you're going to have people feel entitled or feel emboldened, empowered to be, I guess, what do you say, rowdy, right? Lack of a better term, and it makes me sound like a boomer. He's encouraging this behavior. Of course, you're going to see more of it. Like, it's not like he is constantly saying, like, hey, you guys have to chill the fuck out. People would listen. It's not. He encouraged people to break in concerts at other times. He seems like a very irresponsible person. He has a history of it. He's a fucking 29-year-old man. So, part of the crowd's behavior is his fault. Absolutely.
Do their thing. They didn't give a single damn about anyone around them. It was an absolute shit show, and I promise you, a lot of these rumors going around where EMS they weren't trained enough.
Some of them probably weren't.
They were understaffed. Every EMT in the field that I saw, they weren't new to the job, nor were they EMRs. Everyone in the med tent was the absolute A-team. In the medical tent, they had 2 doctors, a SWAT physician, a ton of SWAT medics, seasoned paramedics, and then basics. If you could...
Well, so, I mean, listen, there's other accounts of people that were, they were like EMTs or something in their own spare time, and they were there as a fan. And they said that they had encountered some people that didn't know what the fuck they were doing, and they seemed undertrained. It doesn't mean a lot of them are undertrained. I mean, some of them could possibly be undertrained. I mean, it's all speculative. I think it's generally irrelevant because there's a big issue, and that is that it just wasn't an adequate event. There was so many different... It just the entire thing surrounding the event was a problem. I think it really all stems from Travis Scott. Let's say that they had enough security and enough medical professionals that were on site. The issue was the crowd, people breaking in. They didn't actually properly vet people. These are the bigger issues, right? And it's a culmination of factors. You know, like I get your best argument could be like, you know, we couldn't have been prepared for this. That's fair. That's totally fair. I get it.
Draw in a team from Houston that aren't doctors. They were there. It was just a situation where maybe just over 100 or 150 personnel was responsible for probably over 50,000 highly irresponsible people. Whose fault is it? My observations was the crowd. There were probably some, and you could probably see from the videos going around the internet, these people who are getting up on these towers, screaming at camera people, please stop the show. Those are the heroes. Those are the people who need to be applauded. Because those are the people who actually gave a damn, saw that people were dying, and were like, hey, look, this concert doesn't mean shit. 8 people are dying. At the end of the day, we had 8 confirmed deaths so far, 11 confirmed cardiac arrests. What does that mean? That means 8 people confirmed dead on scene.
It seems like it does seem like, even in the comments I'm reading, it seems like he was trying not to really incriminate, for lack of a better term, Travis Scott. But I really do think that Travis is the number one individual at fault here. he definitely could have controlled his crowd better by not creating like a fucking insane crowd. I understand he's just looking at it as like the crowd was the biggest problem. I agree, but Travis has an influence over that crowd, and he wasn't being responsible.
And the other 3 are still being worked on in the hospital. They might be vegetables by this point. Just highly frustrating. Me and every single one of the medical personnel did our very best. Our very best, and we're being slandered. We were presented with an impossible situation, and everyone was escorted to the hospital. Everyone was taken care to the best of everyone's ability, and I know for damn sure, whoever my hands touched, I did my absolute damnedest to provide the best care I could. It's just sad to know that when you bring over 50,000 self-centered people who only care about themselves into one place, this is what happens.
Yeah, I think that there's not enough. I mean, like, listen, he has his perspective. I'm not going to shit on it. I don't think that he understands the fullness of the situation. Like I said, I'm not like a huge content creator or anything, but I do understand. Like, it's one of those things you learn that you have a level of control over your audience, and I don't think Travis Scott did enough to try to control his audience. He didn't stop the show. He generated like a dog shit audience, honestly, that felt empowered to do shitty things. But what is this here? Oh, this is just like a clip of Stormy and Kylie Jenner getting escorted through the crowd. I don't know. Part of me like was my thing is that there seems to be why would you bring your fucking wife and kids to like a show like this where you know it gets incredibly rambunctious? Because I would make an argument that there shouldn't have needed to be security surrounding them. I don't know. It just bothers me because I saw the article that was like, "Oh, don't worry, they made it out alive." Like, I mean, it would have been terrible if they didn't. But what about everybody else? You know what I mean? Like, this is a very, like, oh well, look, the people that are better than you made it out alive. Okay, great news. This is irrelevant. Okay, let's watch the Abin preach video here. I'm curious. They said update Travis Scott World. Who's guilty? Why are kids present at music festivals? To that answer, like you have the parents. I would say it's generally irresponsible to let your kid go to a music festival, to this music festival. Okay. But I also think that they shouldn't have been allowing kids knowing how horrible this is. I would argue that most parents are a bit out of touch, and so they may not know the full severity of the situation or how bad the culture is. When you say like, Dad, I want to go, or Mom or Dad, I want to go to a music festival, you'd be like, all right, I went to music festivals when I was younger. I don't think that they have gone and educated themselves specifically on the fucking monster that Astroworld exclusively seems to be. I still don't think you should let your kids go. But then also, they shouldn't be allowing kids in at all. Not with this type of fucking like violence and shit going on here. Everything. And ultimately, the kids going there isn't even the problem. We watched people storming the gate. That's the bigger problem. And they didn't shut the show down. That's a bigger problem than anything else. Like, after we're seeing stuff like this where people, this isn't even the worst one. I don't even know why this is the one. After you see this happening, you should have shut the show down. I don't care. Should have been a huge deal, but people were storming it. They weren't getting checked at the over here. If you watch through here, this is where you're supposed to get your bags checked here. Now, this one girl was saying that they didn't check bags very well, which I actually believe her. But this calls for a shutdown. They didn't even do this. So whether kids should or shouldn't be there, I feel like we're not focusing on the right things. It's that the festival itself didn't take the precautions it needed. You had a riled up audience there because Travis Scott has he encourages rowdiness in his audience. And then you have shit like this going on and nobody stops anything. This is a fucking problem. This should have been stopped. But they didn't. They didn't stop it.
A lot of new information has come out in regards to the tragedy that happened in Astroworld as well as Travis Scott.
Oh.
And me having looked up a lot of this information, people ask me what my thoughts are, whether my thoughts have changed. And let me tell you, I am now 100% sure that Travis Scott bears zero responsibility. I mean,
that's a hot take.
This man.
Really?
No, I'm joking.
Oh, I was about to say, I was like, God damn. Oh, that's a harsh take. I was curious what he was going to say, but Jesus.
These people out, they lose their fucking mind. You fucking asshole. There's blood on your hands. Breathe, okay? What I think is really important to this, that I don't think it's referenced enough, and I think it's like really damning in a way. Live Nation was behind this event. They were the ones who were organizing the vast majority of it in working with Travis Scott, and their company has a horrendous record. They are linked to over 200 deaths at their events, over 750 injuries.
Wow.
As well as dozens of safety violations at their music events. Now we have to ask ourselves. Now, one can say that Travis may bear a lot of blame because of the fact that he
What the fuck was that guy with the dent in his head?
worked with the largest live events company in the world. But at the same time, these people need to be held to account as well. Travis has...
Well, my thing is he chose them. So if they, he chose to work with them. That's a big deal. I would argue, and I don't know the specifics, this is all speculation, but I would argue if you have a company with a track record of like lots of injuries and deaths, a company that sets up events like this, that means that they're cutting corners to save money. That's just my argument. Add that in with a fucking horrible fan base that's encouraged by a asshole performer, and you have a fucking recipe for disaster.
2 prior incidents in regards to inciting people at his shows. One
How cold is it in their fucking room, man? Shit.
2015. Travis Scott pled guilty to reckless conduct charges placed under court supervision for 1 year, encouraged fans to mosh pit at Lollapalooza in Chicago, and he encouraged them to vault over the security barriers.
I want chaos. Don't you think them off. Don't you think them off. Let's go. They're not going to stop you. Mike, get down there. Everybody that you see, grab him. Everybody that you see, grab him. He got you. They're not going to stop you. Let's go. Let's go. Hey, don't you handle them like that. Let them the fuck go. Everybody in the green shirt, get the fuck back.
He's telling security, get the...
Yeah, I mean, that's fucking absolutely ridiculous. And I understand that happened years ago, but like still, there seems to be a pattern of irresponsible behavior. Like, what a dumb fuck to tell people, hey, ignore the security and just jump over barricades, and then yelling at the security for doing their job.
The fuck back, don't touch the people vaulting over the fence.
Someone said that Travis stopped the show because somebody stole his shoes. So it's more worth stopping it because someone stole your shoes, but not people are dying. Makes sense.
1, 2, 3!
And then he called for the person that took his shoes to be beat up.
Rogers, Arkansas. Travis Scott is accused again of inciting a riot, urging crowd members to rush the stage. Several people were injured. Arrested and pled guilty to disorderly conduct and ordered to pay court fees and restitution to the people, to injured people. And then once again, Bird's Eye View tour in New York City. Fan Kyle Green injured and left paralyzed after jumping off a balcony. Travis Scott yelled to him, "I see you, but are you going to do it?" as he neared the edge of the railing. "They're going to catch you. Don't be scared. Don't be scared." The man did it and ended up becoming paralyzed.
So, Jesus Christ. Travis Scott's a fucking idiot. Dude, this guy's literally he's an incredibly dumb fuck. Travis Scott is a fucking moron. That's incredible. He encouraged a fan to jump off of the top of, the crowd. Dude, this is stupid. I don't care if you'd be like, wow, the crowd, he thought the crowd would catch him. No, dude, I don't understand. Like, you're an adult. You're a fucking adult. You know what I'm saying? Like, this isn't some 18-year-old dumb fuck encouraging bad behavior. This guy is now 29. I don't know exactly when this happened, but, you know, what is he, like 25, 26? I mean, Jesus Christ, you're a grown man, and you're just doing dumb shit. You didn't learn responsibility.
Kyle filed a lawsuit against Travis. What?
Maybe it's because I'm able to be like, no, I'm not gonna fucking jump on the fucking rail. And I do it. It's stupid to me. I understand that you have some kind of responsibility, but you're on a ledge, they're gonna catch you, jump. It's like, why would you trust him? Like, what does he know? Why did you jump? It's like, why? Because he asked, because he's Travis and he asked. Okay.
I mean, more than that. There's hundreds of thousands of people all surrounding you. Everyone's looking at you. You're not used to that limelight. Your favorite artist tells you to do something, you're gonna do it.
Porn ABBA.
They'll tell you.
I understand what he's saying, that the people have individual responsibility, for sure. But then also we have an event where people are high and drunk, encouraged, and then like, this fucking asshole's encouraging you to do dumb shit. I get it. People do have individual responsibility. But I also think that we need to be aware of the responsibility that celebrities or individuals have over people. Like, it's a real phenomenon. It's parasocial relationships. There are people who are susceptible to larger creators. You know, I understand it doesn't remove the individuality. And I'll say, like, you know, the existence of that power dynamic doesn't create instant abuse, of course. But just because Travis is a big content creator or whatever doesn't mean that he's responsible for everything. But when you engage in a pattern of irresponsible behavior and then, like, this ridiculous shit where you're asking somebody to jump off a thing, you have to realize that you're being fucking stupid. Like, that's when it becomes a problem. Because a normal person saying, do it, that wouldn't be as impactful. But then you have Travis Scott who's saying to do it, which also encourages people in the crowd to encourage that person to do it. And then everybody's high and drunk and he jumps and he gets fucking paralyzed. Like, it's just like, there's a lot more here. I understand there's an individual responsibility, but Still, it's not like this happened one time and Travis neatened up his game. There's a constant pattern of this.
You go twerk, then you go twerk. You feel me? This brings us to this year's Astroworld. And now, obviously, now you've got 50,000 people. There's a huge show happening. Travis is yelling at the crowd. It's high energy. And look, Travis's shows are always like that, apparently. From what I've been able to read up on, his shows are high energy. It's very, like, anarchist type of a vibe. People love the idea of being violent and rowdy at the shows. And undoubtedly,
which is his fault, honestly. Because if it was my show, or anybody, and maybe this is why I'm not famous, but if it was anyone else's show, you would know, like, hey, you have to chill the fuck out. You know that would happen.
When you love that rebellious energy, and when you're telling people to jump over barricades, when you tell people to rush the stage, yeah, people are going to get hurt. As much as you want to show people a great experience, people's safety and well-being also matters throughout the whole experience. You have to understand that, and you have to be responsible for that. If I was security, if I was an event organizer, I'd be suing the fuck out of Travis for things like that. Putting my people, my staff in danger because he wants to create a hype moment and have people jump over, that's crazy. That's crazy. If you're one of the security guards, you will set up that railing, that perimeter for safety reasons. You do it not just for your safety, for the people in the back. Because people who are jumping over that railing are not close to you. If they got weapons, if they got whatever, it puts everybody in danger. There's a different kind of negligence that comes in when I see that kind of stuff. So you have that entire history and you come to this event and you constantly encourage that kind of energy. It carries over. And now you have people in an extra vulnerable state. Go ahead.
I'm from both perspectives. I'm from the perspective of a performer that performs on stage. I'm from the perspective of a security guard that has to face that. There's a lot of nightmares that security guards at these shows face. And that is not talked about. When an artist decides to go in the crowd, prior to that, you have to ask security. You have to, or be in contact with the security so that we know what the fuck is going on. We have to mobilize people because a lot of things happen. You know, whenever there's people at event that are artists at event that are complaining about, well, they snatched my chain and stuff like that. And I look at the footage, and the person's like, I'm gonna go in the crowd because I'm close to my people, and they go in the crowd. Yes, these things happen and stuff like that. So you have to be you have to talk with the security. I looked up after the video we did. I looked up a couple of shows. There's a couple of instances where the shows of Travis, where he says to people to fuck shit up. I'm not saying that the people there do not have a responsibility, but that's his show. He's telling people to fuck shit up. He has a responsibility for that. It's not so much a control the chat. People have accountability. Yeah, people don't have to necessarily do it, but there's this crowd effect that's happening that you have. So he definitely has responsibility like that. You know, when you ask people to go in the crowd or to move a certain way, yes, there's this whole thing where you're supposed to MC the crowd, where you're supposed to be the master of ceremony. You're supposed to entertain the crowd and stuff like that. But there's some things that, especially in hip hop, there's a lot of things like that happen that can go overboard. I'm thinking about hip hop, yes, you know, the mosh pits and stuff like that. But I've seen shows from Slipknot, which is another band that does metal, that it goes out of hand. Because it's like a moment that you want to replicate that it's anarchy and you want to replicate all that and it's all based in fun and everything and stuff. You as an artist,
yeah, I mean, if there was something going on at Slipknot, people would be criticizing them as well.
You pack your shit, you go home and that's it. But people in the crowd that just want to watch the show and don't necessarily want to do that. I've seen another.
You know, what's so interesting too is that people think that that celebrities are intelligent. I'm just being honest. You know what I mean? And this is the problem: is people will look to a celebrity as some kind of point of like moral authority. It's a real thing. It doesn't make any sense because Travis Scott, I don't think, is a particularly intelligent person. It's not a bad. I wouldn't sit here and criticize him for not being like a super smart guy. But the problem is that people look at them as if they are super smart people, and then they listen to them as if they know what the fuck they're talking about. And you add that into it, like it's like a fucking king to some people, and that is those people's problems. But we live in like this world where we understand these different dynamics, and it's not appropriate. You know, if Travis was like, "Hey, you guys need to chill the fuck out," and people were still being rowdy, I wouldn't fault Travis for doing his best. But that's not what happened. He's generally encouraging of people being too fucking rambunctious. I'm using the most boomer words. But, you know.
Another show, I don't want to put people out there, but
somebody said he has a Fortnite emote. I think that they removed it.
I've seen another show where I was outside of the people in the middle, and the artist on top asked people to mosh pit, open a circle, this side and this side, you're going to run against each other. I've seen that in concerts. So, yeah, there's definitely, it's your name on the brand, it's you on the stage, you have something, and you do certain things to the crowd like that. You ask the crowd to vault over or whatever.
Slipknot had a dead crow in a jar, and a crowd started to eat it. Wow, that's disgusting.
There's going to be some kind of responsibility you're going to have with that. It's a mess. It's a whole mess.
But one thing I think is a giant mistake, whenever things like these happen, right? There's such an emphasis put on the big name star at all times, right? This guy's the face of it, bang, bang. And I think it doesn't do justice to the people who really suffered, because accountability means putting the blame where it needs to be appropriately, not where it's most convenient. We say Travis Scott because he's a name and he's a big person, and if he pays, then we can all see some change happen. When I can assure you, when you work a big show like that, Travis Scott doesn't know shit about the security. Travis Scott doesn't know shit about the layout of the whole thing. They are never briefed on these things. They hire other people who handle it. Now, of course, when you hire people, you're always going to have some level of accountability, but understand there's people who 150% failed at their job. Failed. When the police department declares that there's a mass casualty at this place, immediately that information needs to be relayed to Live Nation, who was in charge of this festival, right? And they need to just cut the plug, because you are trusting other people to handle their part.
My understanding, and I think Abba and Preach even showed it, where, and I'm not saying that they're wrong, like the Live Nation should have pulled it. the reason that they probably didn't, if they did hear about this, is because they wouldn't have wanted Travis Scott to not hire them again, which is obviously still irresponsible. But Travis Scott saw the ambulance. Apparently, 2 guys came up to him and tried to tell him to stop the show. They showed it. It was that speculative what they said, and he was just like, no, let's get back to it. He saw the ambulances surrounded. You know, I'm not, like, listen, I'm all for Travis Scott and the event organizers being responsible. I'm totally for it. But I don't want to downplay Travis Scott.
Parts. If there's a disturbance on the left wing and there's a mass stabbing, the artist is not going to know. He's counting on security to figure that out, and then they're supposed to relay to him, cut the plug, right? Now, that doesn't mean that Travis doesn't have accountability. We've said throughout this whole thing, 100%, there's a large measure of it. But you have to understand, there are failures systematically at every level that happen when something like this happens. And to levy it on Travis, to put all the focus on him, does an injustice to the people who really suffered. Because the people who are really, really at fault are not going to get held as accountable as they should be. So we as people, when we're watching this, cannot just look at the big name person to be levied all the blame. We have to look at, Live Nation. It reminds me a bit of the R. Kelly situation, where all the emphasis was put on R. Kelly, not recognizing that the only reason they were able to get R. Kelly was all the people who assisted him in his crimes, who were able to get off scot-free in order to put him to the sword.
Enablers.
You have to ask yourself, did we just let go of a whole bunch of criminals just because we want to get the big name one? You feel what I'm saying?
Man,
there's a lot of...
Yeah, I get what they're saying.
Other people who were involved in this.
I mean, I'm assuming, I don't know, I'm not too educated on the R. Kelly situation. I'm assuming those other people that helped him get young girls, I'm assuming that they were told that they'd get like some kind of immunity if they spoke out against him. I get what they're saying.
Who enabled it, who facilitated the young women, right? Like,
you know what the thing is? It actually works like that in the legal system.
Yes.
Unfortunately.
Yes, because the prosecutor...
We'll drop you everything. We'll drop all this. We'll drop all this. Give me the big name.
That's right.
Give me the big name. Give me the big boss.
I would say though that the big name is like the most responsible person, right? So so Travis Scott is the biggest irresponsible factor here. Now, this isn't a legal thing in the sense of like gave me a big name, because that's more of a bargain. It's like, well, we know the big guy has the most influence, right? Without R. Kelly, we would make a reasonable assumption that everybody in the pipeline wouldn't be looking for children for R. Kelly to sleep with, right? They should all get arrested. But in that scenario, it's like, we'll give you a deal if you give us R. Kelly. It's not ideal, but I get it. This isn't the same scenario. They don't need to get a deal from Live Nation in order to get Travis Scott. So, you know what I'm saying? I feel like a little bit of it's coming off as a bit of a downplay on Travis Scott, and not enough. Like, they should all be held accountable, but
boss, and not be able to do something for
because
you.
the prosecution also likes all of that.
Yeah.
They like all the fame,
They like big
the
names.
adulation, right? It's a big deal. I'm the one who got R. Kelly.
Yeah.
I'm
I feel like this is also now it's getting a little like they're like, yeah, they just want to get the big name so that they can be the ones that say I got R. Kelly. More again, it's like the chain of command. You knock out the top, but that's gonna have much more impact than knocking out like the guys in the middle. Because R. Kelly could find other morally reprehensible, worthless pieces of shit to find to get him to engage with kids. Whereas without R. Kelly, that disappears. You know what I'm saying? Like that in this chain of command, that everything disappears because they're only procuring these kids for him because he has the desire for it.
the one who got 200 no-name criminals.
No.
R. Kelly.
Yeah.
And I'm also going to say this. While we're having this whole discussion, you also have to place a tremendous amount of accountability on the people who didn't seem to give a fuck about other folks who were dying right next to them.
Sure.
Yes.
Yeah.
The people who didn't have enough consideration to try to make a path for people who were suffering. The folks who wanted to be more concerned with raging than their own neighbors. There's also a certain amount of accountability there. I think when it comes to these kind of events, we always look to creators, we always look to organizers. Undoubtedly, they deserve some measure of accountability, if not the lion's share. But you as individuals also have to say, you played a role in that. When someone's struggling right next to you, falling to the ground, and you just being concerned about trying to get as close to the stage as possible, you play a part in that. We can't always look upwards in regards to, we can also look sideways. Because I can assure you,
But again, I would say that like the general, that mentality was created by Travis Scott, I would say.
Different crowd with a different set of people. The results could have been drastically different.
What do you mean?
Not all crowds would have behaved like that, irrespective of what artist is on stage.
Fair.
You dig what
True, I agree. But again, Travis Scott encourages disrespectful attitudes.
I'm saying?
Yeah, I understand.
A lot of people act completely differently based off what kind of crowd. We know this, I know this because we go to nightclubs. The crowd changes, right? You could have the same DJ set depending on who shows up, right? So you also have to look at that there.
Well, sorry.
And it's hard to do that, and it's not nearly as interesting, or there's no like catharsis because it's just a sea of people, right? It's a question mark. You don't have any faces. Travis Scott's a face and name you can point to and you can Twitter at. But the individuals also have to ask themselves, like, what's going on here? Dude, you know what's crazy? Maybe this is also just me. What the is a 10-year-old doing at a concert like that? Am I crazy?
You're old. You're old.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I think one of the kids that died was 10. I feel like this is a little bit tone deaf. Like, I understand what you're saying. Like, why are children at the festivals? Again, we talked about it earlier. But ultimately, it kind of comes off as like, oh, this kid died. It's kind of his fault. You know what I mean? It's a little shit. They let the minors in. My opinion is if you're going to have any institution where young people are allowed to access that institution or whatever, that you need to be exponentially more considerate. Like, I would hold a family restaurant to a higher standard than a fucking bar, because a bar is full of a bunch of dumb fuck drunk adults. Kids aren't allowed in there. You know what I mean? But when you have like a different restaurant, you have to change the way that you interact with the people. You know, you have to almost basically treat everybody as if they're kids. You know what I mean? Like every protocol should be. I don't think that there should really be drinking at an event with children. But again, you know, the rowdiness of the crowd was the number one biggest issue. So, or segregate the kids. I don't give a fuck. Put them all in a separate area, 17 and under. You know, what do I think the lowest age should be for an event like this? Like 21, honestly, maybe 18. No drinking at 18 because you're an adult. Maybe 18 would be my lowest that I would go. But again, the incitement of violence. And then also think about this. Like, I'm not even joking. I know this is gonna see, but Travis Scott has like a whole fucking Fortnite event. I know that sounds absolutely weird, but honestly, ask yourself, why would Travis Scott have a Fortnite event unless Travis Scott expected to generate new fans from that Fortnite event? Usually when you do stuff like that, you're looking for some kind of a payout, financial, but also like viewership payout. I honestly, how many of these fucking kids, I know this sounds so dumb, but how many of these kids were like, I really like the fucking Fortnite dancing guy. I like the big Fortnite guy. Because he is like, I don't know, I've seen some clips where you just have a big fucking thing of Travis Scott walking around. I want to go to the Fortnite guys concert. And then you have like a 50-year-old or whatever, 30, 40, probably like 40. Yeah, like 40, 50-year-old fucking mom and dad. Like, yeah, okay, whatever. Fortnite guy. I know it sounds weird, but then also think about it. Fortnite's a kid's game. You have this a guy in a kid's game. You're going to make the immediate assumption that this guy is probably pretty kid-friendly. Or his events are kid-friendly, so it's fine. You know what I mean? There's so many different things. Where, like, I don't blame the parent. Like, if it was my kid, I would have done more research on Astroworld. But I didn't know how fucked Astroworld until people died. You know? I wouldn't let my kid go there, or I'd go with my kid. But you get my point.
Old and immigrant. My parents would have never. You understand? The first time I went to a concert, I was old. You understand?
Yeah.
10 years old. Cause yeah, it's his favorite artist and stuff like that. Yeah, there's people that bring their kids. Listen, to each their own. Working in concert, you know, I did a whole bunch of jobs, right? You already know that. Got to pay the bills. You got to, you know, and yeah. I remember there was Asiaga. There was one time I was working at Asiaga. I was serving alcohol. You know the motherfuckers that passing through the crowd with the alcohol like that?
Yeah.
Kids.
Yeah.
Eminem was on stage. Yeah. Kids. Eminem has the amount of people that listen to Eminem ranges from small to very old, and but the lyrics I'm like, ooh, goddamn, yep. You know what I mean? Shit. But there was kids. Yep. I'd have to ask myself why Eminem. It's just like when it was all cute.
Yeah, I think that's shitty too. But again, nobody died. You know what I mean? Like if somebody had died at the Eminem concert, okay. Like no, I don't think kids should go to Eminem concerts. That would be you shouldn't be letting kids in, I would say. But then also parents should let their kids go there. But we're not talking about irresponsible lyrics. We're talking about a pattern of irresponsible rhetoric that encourages a crowd to be irresponsible from a creator, right?
That little girl that went to Ellen's show, she was from the UK, her with a friend that doesn't talk, right? And they were a big fan of Nicki Minaj. And everybody was like, oh, that's so cute. And I was like, it's like, that's not the only song that Nicki Minaj sings, you know? And Nicki Minaj has a song about Anaconda.
To me, it's not even the content of the music, though. To me, it's the environment of the festival where people are laced with all kinds of drugs. And you guys might not understand this, but festivals are abundant with people overdosing, dealers who are present, right? Why do you think they have all those paramedics there? Why do you think they have all those bays?
Because Americans are not really healthy. Wrong answer.
Maybe it's
because people are popping stuff.
Oh.
And you add overheating, right? Yeah. Dehydration to that. Well, it's a deadly cocktail.
The first thing is...
but the overheating, dehydration, apparently they didn't have enough like water tents or whatever they call it. They had like limited access to water. You had massive crowds that were crushing you. And we saw people storm the gate. We've seen Travis Scott previously encourage people to come into the event that don't have tickets. Now, if they were beyond capacity, you would say that would be an event organizer issue. But again, they didn't shut down when people were storming the thing. Because a lot of this is overcrowding. Maybe there shouldn't have been. Maybe there should have only been 40,000 people. I don't know how the fuck they got that capacity at COVID. I really don't get it. I feel like, and I understand their perspective. Like, I'm not shitting on them. I do feel like, though, that there is a bit... we aren't really considering the full picture. It seems like we're taking points... that makes sense individually and throwing them out there. But when like, for instance, they're like, well, the crowds were assholes. Absolutely. When you just say the crowds were assholes by itself, you're like, it makes a real, it's like, yep, the crowd is the problem. But then they even talked about this other information. When you connect it to the rhetoric from Travis Scott encouraging violence, and for people to be rowdy, you all of a sudden the picture gets different. You look at these things, you say, okay, well, look, the crowd was rowdy. Well, whose fault is that? Part of it's the crowd, part of it's Travis. The show wasn't stopped. Whose fault is that? Part of it's Travis, part of it's the event organizer. You know what I'm saying? Like, when you have to tie everything together, they've presented all the information, but some of the information after they present the irresponsible aspect of Travis, they throw out these individual aspects, and then they're like, yeah, but these exist on their own. The crowd being obnoxious doesn't exist on its own. We have to keep that in mind. It doesn't exist on its own. It exists as part of a full picture. And that's one of the problems there. You know what I mean?
First thing is sun, then there's heat, then there's alcohol, but not in that order.
So why kids? It's like you wouldn't bring kids to a bar, but you gonna let them go to a music festival?
It's like it's funny because
what?
I wouldn't go in a festival outside. Yeah. Like
well, it's funny though. It's funny what he just said there.
Like it's funny because
so why kids? It's like you wouldn't bring kids to a bar, but you gonna let them go to a music festival?
This is a funny thing that he brought up, and I agree with exactly what he's saying. My thing is that I feel like you're looking at it the wrong way. We're looking at it as like, well, oh, you wouldn't bring your kid to a bar, but you would bring your kid to a music festival. I look at it as that kids aren't allowed at the bars. Why are they allowed at the music festivals? That's the way I would look at it in general, because that makes more sense to me. You know what? If you know, did you know that if somebody gets too drunk at a bar and they drive home drunk, it's the responsibility of the bartender? That makes sense to me. It makes sense because now you're telling them, make sure you don't let people engage irresponsibly. And I know that the person drinking too much is also a part of the problem, but ultimately we make sure we leave it up to the people with generally the most power. When you're drunk, you can consider yourself like less powerful, right? So, hey, if you let them drink too much and you let them drive home, that's on you. Hey, if you let kids in here and they get, something happens to them, that's on you. That makes sense to me. They shouldn't have let anybody, I think, under 21 get in there, but at the very least 18 in there. And we're not looking at it from that perspective. There should have been kids there in general.
It's like it's funny because what? I wouldn't go.
Bartenders make more money the more you drink. Yeah, well, they make more money the more people they have there. If they didn't have all these kids there, there'd probably be less people there. You know what I mean?
In a festival outside. Like, I have a feeling that people don't pop pills as much inside and outside. I will go if there's a concert and it's like in a closed venue, like an arena and stuff like that, and I could get tickets with my kid, like, above, and we can.
Well, I get what he's saying, but those inside concert venues, they're usually better represented. Because what he's saying is like, yeah, I feel like there's not as many drugs in the inside of venues. That's probably true because you go through an entrance that you can't tackle the. It's not like you can get a crowd of people to literally topple the wall of like a coliseum. Meanwhile, these people were rushing through. These barricades were fences that could be knocked over, right? So it's going to be less secure, and people knocked them over. And they didn't stop the concert, even though a security breach or a security protocol has been breached. You know,
you can see that like Justin Timberlake and stuff like that, or whatever. But outside, it's a different vibe. It's people smoke, all kinds of things, and people pop more than inside. I believe.
Yeah, man, there's crazy footage out there of the whole thing. But anyways, I'm not going to stay too long on this. Let us know what you guys think in the comments below. Who do you think most of the blame goes to? Should kids be allowed at these festivals? What about Live Nation? Why is there no more conversation about that? Is our assessment wrong? Let us know why. We want to hear from you guys.
Hey. Don't say anything in my comments below, you fucking assholes. I don't want to hear anything you have to say. I'm just kidding. Yeah, I mean, I get what they're saying. I don't think they're I just disagree on some of the stuff. I don't think that they're like fully contextualizing everything. So